Hello, my name is Bill Summerskill. I'm one of the senior executive editors of The Lancet in London. Today I'm going to speak about how to strengthen your submission to a medical journal. This talk will be in 3 parts. I'm beginning by listing a statement of my interests because part of publication is being transparent about any potential competing interests. I've called this talk the ABCs because we will discuss the abstract, the best journal for submission, and the cover letter. These are 3 essential parts of a submission and ones that as an editor I often see could be improved. So the aims of these 3 talks are to show how to construct a more concise and more complete abstract, to describe factors that can help you to select an appropriate journal for submission, and to list what editors look for in a cover letter. By the end of these sessions, you'll be able to incorporate publication when you next plan a research project, to write a strong abstract, select an appropriate journal for submission, and write a convincing cover letter. My message is that time invested in strengthening your submission will actually save you time overall, and it may increase the likelihood of publishing in your targeted journal. First of all, it's important to have a clear publication strategy, because the time to think about submitting your research is when you first plan that research. Is the question going to be novel, meaningful, and answerable? So incorporate a publication strategy within the protocol. Design your study so that you include all the reporting requirements that you will need to write it up successfully. To design your research so that you include all the reporting requirements that are necessary to write up the manuscript. And as you conduct the study, to focus on publishable data. You may wish to involve your sponsors in this project, for instance, to make sure that you have guaranteed autonomy for publication. Perhaps to ask them where they would like to see the paper. How can they help? For instance, they may assist with a funding proposal, and in that proposal, you want to make sure to include journal fees if you're thinking of an open access or free publication system. The work that you've done in preparation for your research can also be publishable. This might include a literature review, for example, or a systematic review, a protocol. So the key points in thinking about publishing your research is to incorporate it in the design when you're planning your research and in the conduct of that research. So what are the mechanics of submission? Many journals will make an initial decision based on a masked reading of your cover letter and abstract, sometimes only the abstract. So therefore, it's really important to make these strong. The abstract and the cover letters have different but complementary roles. The abstract explains the details of your research and findings, whereas the cover letter explains to the editor why your research is important to that particular journal's readership. Think of the abstract and the cover letter as a bridge between you and the editor, because they can make the difference between being read and being rejected. In a way, it's an advertisement for your research, so it needs to be honest but compelling, so the editor will want to learn more. In writing an abstract, I would suggest the model of the 6 hows. So how is that research needed? That is, what gap does your work fill? How is it done? And here you would follow reporting guidelines such as those listed on the Equator Network website. How many? using absolute numbers rather than just percentages. How much, to include an effect size and quantify that with p-value or confidence intervals. How useful, what are the implications for clinical practice or further research of your findings? And finally, a simple statement on how funded. You'll see on the screen an example here of a paper amongst the authorship list were authors from Taiwan. It's on hepatitis C treatment. At the beginning, under the background heading, is a simple statement about how there is a need for this kind of research. The authors write, an unmet need exists for interferon-free and ribavirin-free treatments for chronic hepatitis C virus. Very simple, very straightforward. How done? And here in the methods section, the authors describe the techniques, in this study quite complex techniques, but very briefly, very directly described in the methods section. So the reader begins to get a grasp of the research behind this abstract. For how many, it's a simple statement of the numbers involved. How much? And here you notice that there is an effect size with quantification by confidence intervals. Well, what does this mean? So under how useful, there's a statement in the interpretation that shows how these findings can be applied to practice. And finally, the abstract ends with a simple statement on funding. So nothing elaborate about this, all very straightforward and factual. So the key points for abstracts to keep in mind is to follow the 6 hows, represent the manuscript objectively. And that's the end of this first session.